'Twas the day after Christmas, and all through the house, all the digital artists were using tablets, and never again the mouse. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kienan Lafferty, and I would like to welcome you to another show. Today's KNKL show, episode 360, and today we're going to be building colors with Fortnite. And we're going to be having a lot of fun with that. This is, of course, a continuation of the previous episode, so if you haven't seen those, then go back and check those out. But today we're going to be talking about Fortnite. We're going to be having a lot of fun, and we're going to actually be finishing a piece because I'm getting an early jump on this year's New Year's resolution, and that is, of course, that I'm going to be finishing what I start. But that's beside the point. Today we're going to be coloring people. So, because I know that you're all caught up and you watched all the episodes up till this point, we can go ahead and jump right into it. So, let's go ahead and deconstruct what you're seeing here, because I'm sure you're hopefully liking what you see. But let's go ahead and take away these glows, right? Because in the game, they have these glows on the weapons, which we don't need to worry about just yet. But let's go ahead and begin deconstructing these layers over here. Take a look over here, because I'm deconstructing the lines. Now, beneath the lines, we have a very curious situation. We have all of these layers. In fact, I'll expand it a little bit more so you can see it. We have all of these layers handily created that represent different parts of our character, such as, hey, here's the hair, here's the green shirt, here's the camo, here's the pants. And all of these masks have been laid out in a certain way, or rather, they're separated because we want to begin lighting them individually. And today I'm going to be showing you a really cool trick that is going to help you guys out a lot. So the first thing that I want you guys to take note of is the fact that a lot of these colors, you'll notice if you color pick them, are actually a bit on the darker side. I usually like to start off a lot of my base colors or my masks very dark, because those of you who've been watching for a while, you'll know that I like to start with my shadows, figure those out, and then begin lighting my character. And if I just lost you right there, don't worry, I'll get to that in just a second. So let's go ahead and do a quick example of that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the shirt. I think the shirt will show this off really, really well. And I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the reference. I'm going to keep that up on the side because I want to mimic this. Since we're talking about color and lighting and shading, there's a few things that I want to be keeping track of today. And that is that you can see that there's this ambient light that lights the character, that creates this nice, beautiful, warm glow on the skin. But then there's also this upper light. There's this skylight. There's a skylight, as you can see very clearly, at the tops of the shoulders, like right here, which we really like. And I want to also recreate that within the piece, okay? So with all that blabbing out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about that by coloring the shirt. So let's go ahead and go over to the shirt. Where the heck is it? There we go, green shirt. What we're gonna do is we're gonna hit Shift-Control-N, and we're gonna call this light. I always name it light, because that is exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be lighting it. Okay, and what I want you to do is now I want you to pick a brighter color. Pick the color that you think is going to be the color of that shirt when the light is shining on it. Okay, so I guess it's probably going to be right around there. And then for the purposes of this exercise, I'm going to go ahead and choose the soft brush, both for my brush and my eraser. Now watch what happens here. I'm going to paint this on. Whoops. I forgot the most important part. You have to hold Alt and click between these two layers, light and green shirt. See that? That'll make this little icon appear. What that does is, I'm actually glad that I did that first, because it shows you what happens if you don't set it up properly. Okay? Now you can begin lighting things. You can begin laying down some light onto the shirt. Now here's the problem, is that sometimes you might overspill. You might overspill a little too much light onto the shirt, and it might look something like this. But because, by the way, here's what that layer looks like if you take it off. This is called a clipping mask. Now what you're doing when you're clicking Alt between these two layers is you're saying, okay, this light layer or this new color layer, I only want it to exist. Watch, I can move it around and see how it only exists where the green shirt mask was before. Isn't that awesome? And the reason why this is great is because it allows us to begin lighting our piece. It allows us to begin lighting our shirt, but most importantly, if we overspill or we want to clean up these shadows, all we have to do is flip our styluses around, use the eraser tool, and now watch what happens. Oh my gosh, I can just erase back to the shadow color. I can easily erase back to where the shadows were before. And I can create all kinds of nice little transitions like this. Look, see how that now is starting to look a lot more, it looks softer, it looks nicer. But here's the other really, really cool point that I wanted to show you guys, is that it allows you to begin experimenting. Now watch this. I'm going to hit Control U on the light layer, right? I can turn this on and off now. Now, if I hit Control U, which is the shortcut for your Hue tool, it's going to bring up this awesome thing. And now watch what happens. Because we have separated our light and our shadow, I can take this hue and I can hue shift only the light. Isn't that awesome? Wow, isn't that cool? Now look at that. We can make the light warmer. We can make it brighter. We can make it more saturated. We can make it less saturated. And this allows you to begin playing around and experimenting with your color. Now here's the other cool part. Let's say that we wanted, just for the sake of this, let's say that we wanted, well, I'll keep it like that right now because that looks nice. That actually looks nice. That gives me a pleasing palette. But let's say that we also wanted to change the shadows. Now watch what happens. Let's go from the light, pay attention down here. Let's click back one layer to green shirt, which is our shadow layer. And watch, we can hue shift the shadows as well. Wow, oh my gosh. I probably just blew your guys' minds. Your life will never be the same. I totally just hit the freaking speaker. Let's put that down there. Probably just blew your minds. And yes, you can thank me from now on for all of your awesome experimentation that's going to come up after this. But I'm sure you're thinking, Keenan, shouldn't I be able to pick those colors on my own? Shouldn't I not have to rely on the computer and Photoshop to do all the work for me? And you know what I say to that? No, of course you should be letting the computer do as much work for you as possible. But I will say that when you do find a pleasing mixture of light and shadow, I would ask that you go in there and you take your eyedrop tool, and I want you to eyedrop the light, and then I also want you to eyedrop the shadow. And I want you to pay attention to something very important that's happening, and that is this over here. This is your Hue Richter scale, because oftentimes the best transitions from light to shadow oftentimes have a really cool, in fact, this is a really good way to do it. Just take your eyedropper tool and drag it up and down between the light, right? And you can see how the Hue Richter scale changes ever so slightly. And this is a good hallmark of creating interesting colors. See, because here, like green, it looks a little off. It looks a little bit off. It looks really nice to have it actually go warmer. It looks really nice to have this area go warm. So we have yellow up here, and then look, now we have a huge hue shift. A huge hue shift. Or huge shift. We could call it that. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so anyway, so that is lesson number 1. That is lesson number 1. Now let's go ahead and take that and let's put it into practice with the rest of our piece, okay? In fact, we're gonna go ahead and do it on the skin because that is really important and we should talk about that. So let's go ahead and go to the skin. Skin, let's do the same thing. Create a new layer, call it light. I have another layer here called blush. That's just because I wanted to add a little bit of pigment. You can see here, it's ever so slight. Look at the pigment on the cheeks as well as on the shoulders. That was just a little kind of finishing touch, or not necessarily a finishing touch, just something that I added before I finished and closed down the piece yesterday. But let's go ahead and merge those two together because we don't need to worry about that right now. All we need to worry about is the light. The light. So let's go ahead and pick our skin color. And let's say, okay, well now that we have the knowledge of hue shifting and that makes something look interesting, let's say that the light part of the skin is going to brighten. It's going to desaturate because we know that that is just a general rule, but then let's also hue shift it. Let's hue shift it up to yellow a little bit. Let us do that. And then what I want to do is let's go ahead and put on some light. Now check this out. What I love most about this is that you can actually go a little bit crazy with it. You can say, okay, I want light here, 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 and here, right? You can be crazy like that because then, as we've learned before, you can go back in there and you can begin sculpting the light into the places that you want. And this comes in really handy for like cast shadows. See how I can just erase this away? And then automatically cast shadows begin to form, right? Underneath the brow of the eye, down here by the nose, the actual cast shadow from the nose. See, things like that are much easier to do. a little bit of shadow underneath the lip. And then I'll make my brush extra large, and then I'll just go ahead and soften, right? I'll kind of soften and kind of add shadows back into it. And that is basically how I like to shade my pieces. Now take a look here. Let's go ahead and add in a nice cast shadow right there. Let's go ahead and cut this away. Cut this kind of shoulder piece into that. And then see how awesome that is? See how great that is? And here's the thing. Here's a good rule of thumb, is that when you're using a soft brush, if you want the transition to be hard, if you want a hard transition on your shadow, make the brush small. However, if you want a soft transition, make sure that your brush is large, right? And I'm controlling my brush size on the fly with the left and right angle brackets, right? Left and right angle brackets. Basically the things that look like this on your computer. The things that look like this, just above that enter key, they look like that. That allows you to resize your brush on the fly. I actually rebound my keys, my brush sizing keys, to A and S, because I find that, before I would kind of do this thing where my hands were kind of sideways, or they're kind of crisscrossing, right? Because you have your hand on the tablet and the other hand's reaching across the keyboard. But when they're set to A and S, it's a much more natural state. But that'll be another tutorial for another time. Just so you know, as you go forward, that's a really good thing to keep in mind. So yes, but as I was saying, yeah, soft transitions, make your brush large. Make your brush large, and see, it will create a nice soft transition for you. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Okay, cool. And I love that. My personal favorite is the cast shadow technique. See how I made the brush extra small, because I want the cast shadow to be very harsh. I want it to be a very high contrast, or what's the word? Not high contrast, but a hard transition. Hard transition. Same thing here. There will be a cast shadow there. Maybe not even that much light hitting that point. Let's have these be soft transitions. Boom, boom, boom. See how easy that is, people? So easy to light your pieces like this. And then for the grand finale. The grand finale. You thought I was done? No. 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 We're just getting started. We're just getting started. I actually want a little bit more light on this face. I want a little bit more light hitting this face. So watch as I kind of drop it in there. I want a lot of light to hit this forehead. Yeah, that's looking much better. Okay, now, can you guess where we can go from here? Let's say that we like this, but we are saying to ourselves, this is okay, but I want more contrast, or I want a different color scheme. Well, we can do that with the power of Photoshop, because we can go into the Hue Shift Tool. Let's say, okay, do we like it more yellow? Wow, actually, yeah, more yellow does look nice. Let's go ahead and hit OK. Let's mess around with the shadows. I feel like they could be a little bit darker. What if we darkened them and saturated them a little bit? Maybe even push them more yellow? No, maybe more red. And see how this allows you to just perfectly dial in your colors. Now, again, I want to reiterate that this is not something that, well, actually, it's so easy for me to say that I don't want you guys to rely on this, but you know what? You actually should, because I'm always doing this. I'm always doing this. Experiment with your colors. Try to get that stuff in line, and then always go back in there and eye drop and ask yourself, what is happening? What is happening with the hue shifting, right? Again, pay attention right there. What's happening with our hue shifting? What's happening with our saturation? You can see here, we're more saturated, but in the lights, we move up and diagonally to the left. Could that possibly be a trend? Could that possibly be a pleasing thing for all human eyes to look at, and therefore I should always try to do it? Yes, of course. Those are the types of questions you should be asking yourself. Okay, so another thing that I want to do on this is I really want to add in that third light. And we'll probably end it from here. We'll probably end it after this, because I wanted today to be a semi-short one. Just kind of getting back into the swing of things, right, with the new year. And yeah, I just wanted to get something out. So let's go ahead. I actually want to do the hair as well. Let's do the hair really quickly. That way we can have a nice little thumbnail to look at. Oh, and then I got to show you guys how I did the glows. Then I'll show you guys how I did the glows on these weapons, which is really actually very, very simple and has to do, again, with letting the computer do the work for you. Okay, but let's go ahead and stop our blabbing and get to the hair, and then let's do a little bit of that bright blue skylight. So let's go to the hair, create a new layer called light. I'm sure you've got this down by now. Alt click so that way it is going back where we want it. Let's go ahead and pick a color that we think will make the hair look nice. Maybe something like this. My instincts tell me that it should be more saturated. More saturated. There we go. A little bit of light there, a little bit of light there. Ah, isn't that nice? Now let's go back in there and let's cut that stuff away. Let's sculpt it into place. I really like, just as a rule of thumb, I really like the mixture of hard transitions, of hard shadows, as well as soft transitions. Soft transitions. But actually, I think I kind of want to do this with the hair. That way it has like a band going through it. Yeah, I like that. I like that very much. I dare say. Cool. And then, yeah, like hard shadow like that. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, mix up your shadows, guys. Don't feel like just because you have hard shadows in one area, that's all you're able to do. You can mix up your shadows. You can play around with different combinations. In fact, I've found that's what makes things look best. Okay, and then let's go ahead and go in there with our Hue Shift Tool. See if we can find something that we like. The hair. Let's see. Do we want to hue shift this a little bit? Saturate it a little bit? Oh, nice. Saturation looks really good on it. Darken it down a little bit. Ah, yes. Ah, yes. I think I like it a little bit blue, too. Yeah, that looks good. That looks real good. All right. Let's throw in some skylights. Okay, so the way that I want to approach these skylights is... Oh, I know exactly how we can do it. I know exactly how we can do it. And that is going to be, we're going to create another layer. Let's just create another layer, in this case, on top of the skin, and you can clip this one back too. In this case, I'm clicking between skylight and light. And look, both of these arrows are pointing back to the original, which is the skin. So now watch what happens. We can now introduce another light, which is our skylight, which is going to be very bright, very, very bright. Let's go ahead and kick it like right about there. And let's go ahead and begin adding in some skylights. Oh, isn't that nice? I think it could actually be even brighter. It needs to be brighter to kind of get that effect that I'm going for. In fact, I'm looking closer at this. I think the reason why this comes across really well in the game is because all the other shadows are soft, whereas this one is very stark. There's a stark contrast between it. So let's go ahead and play around with that for just a moment, because we are making observations as we're going. And that's what I absolutely love to do. I love to make observations as we are going about our business. So let's see. Do I want a little bit of skylight on the face? It doesn't look like there's much here. Maybe a little bit would show up like right there, but not much. Okay, so with this new knowledge, here's another thing that I like to do, is if you're going to go back into some old shadows or some old light sources and you want to mess around with them, but you're afraid of messing up what you had before, just hit Control J. What that's going to do is oh yeah, you'll probably have to clip it back again though. So see how we have light copy? Just go ahead and clip that back and then click the eyeball, poke the eyeball of the previous one, and now you have a copy of this light source that you can freely mess around with. And if you don't like it, don't worry, because you can just go back to what you had before. Now here's another thing that I'm going to do that will probably make the lights from the top look even better, is I'm going to erase a little bit of the top, right? See what I'm doing here? I'm erasing the top part of the light, which is going to give us a little bit more of an ambient feel. And it's also going to, at the same time, make the skin look very shiny. Now, the reason why this makes the skin look more shiny is because we are compressing our light. We're compressing our specular, you could call it, or, well, just light source. And when you compress light, it ends up making it look shiny. See how that arm looks very shiny? It's because we're constricting our light source. This is something that happens when things become glossy, okay? But I don't want it to be too much overkill, just ever so slight, just really makes a big difference. I love that type of stuff. Love it. Love it. light. Okay, cool. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so with these softer lights, we should now be able to put in our skylights, and those should look even better, okay? Because, yeah, that's actually looking quite nice. I'm really digging that. I'm thinking that these skylights could also benefit. Let's go ahead and just throw them in there, and then I want to experiment with something else. I want to experiment with playing around with the hue of the skylights, because I think they could look better if we push them a little bit more towards purple. That is what my gut is saying here. So let's go ahead and do something maybe like that. Go ahead and soften it, soften the edge, soften the edge. Let's go ahead and have a little less there. And now let's go ahead and go into our Hue Shift Tool. And let's Hue Shift it. Does it look a little bit better like that color? Ooh, that actually does look a little bit more natural. That does look a little bit more natural. Moving it more towards warm. We're warming up our blues. Do we want to saturate it as well? That looks okay. That looks okay. There we go. I think that might be the look that we're going for. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Cool. Now let's go ahead and throw that on the hair really quick, as well as the shirt. I just keep adding things to this because it's supposed to be fun. See how much fun this actually is, like when you get into it? I hope that you guys will have this much fun when you're creating your pieces as well. So let's go ahead and take this blue light and let's throw some on the shirt. On the shirt. Ooh, nice. A little bit there, a little bit there. Don't worry if it overspills. Remember, we know how to deal with that. We know how to deal with that now. We can just go in there, erase it away, erase it away. This is a really interesting color palette. I've never actually worked with like this harsh skylight type of thing where it goes to these blues toward the top. It's very interesting. It's very interesting, but you can see the difference between this and this, this and this. And yes, of course, you can have multiple skylights or multiple light sources, which is what we're doing here. We're showing there's an ambient sort of white light that is showing us the true colors of this shirt in this case. But then there's also an ambient light. In this case, it's the skylight that is creating this blue that comes from the top of the character, that hits the top of the character. And with that, let's go ahead and move towards the hair. Let's do the hair, and then we're on to the glows. I'm actually just going to I'm just going to eye drop that color right there. So I have a feeling that's going to look really good on the hair. Oh, and was I right or what? That's hot. That is hot. I don't want to make it too bright. Maybe not that bright. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm digging that. Now, the last thing that I would end up doing is that you can tell that these colors look okay, but really what's happening is our black lines are starting to collide with the liveliness of the piece, which is causing it to feel like a comic book, which is okay. But what we want to do is eventually we want to start going into coloring the lines. So here's our line layer. Do you see once we take it away? See how actually nice the mixture of colors is looking on its own? But then when you throw in the lines, it sort of like muddies everything up because you're mixing straight black with everything. So what you want to do is create a new layer atop the lines. And then similar to what we've been doing before is Alt-click between these two. Now, can you imagine what this could possibly do to our drawing? Well, yes, similar to what we're doing before. It's just going to affect whatever is behind it. And in this case, the only layer that is behind the one that we just created is the lines. So watch what happens. Now I can go in there and I can color the lines. Do you see how now that looks softer? It looks nicer. Let's see. I think it could actually benefit from being more blue. Yeah, even something like this would look very nice. Very nice. This will look really apparent in things like the slurp juice. Take a look here. If I take blue and add this into the lines here, see now how that liquid looks much more glowy. Looks much more glowy. And this is going to segue perfectly into the glow effect for the weapons. Okay? last thing I'll say is that, yeah, red usually looks really good on skin. So see how once I start adding that red to the skin, it looks much more lively. I did a whole nother tutorial on this. I highly recommend you guys check that out. It's called Lines with Life. Don't want to get too bogged down in this, but that is basically the process that I'll be going through as I move into finishing this up. Okay, and that looks way better. It's much, much better. Nice. Nice. Alrighty, people, time to finish this up. Let's talk about some glows. Because I'm sure you want to learn how to do that. And it's actually quite easy. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this away, and I'm going to pull up our glow folder. And let's go ahead and get rid of all this stuff. Let's focus on just the blue glow of this rifle here. Now, all I actually did, you can see down here below, there's just a bunch of effects added to, what could it possibly be? Well, it's just an outline. And for that matter, it's just an outline in a bright blue. So what I did was I went in and manually just created an outline for the gun. And then I went into my effects. But how do you get to effects? Well, all you have to do is double click this open area, or you can right click and go to layer styles. I think that's what it's called. Layer styles. I never do it this way, so it feels kind of weird to do it this way. Actually, how do you do that? Oh no, blending options. That's what it is. The blending, yeah, blending options. That's so weird that it's called blending options, but then it takes you to a thing called layer style. Anyway, the way that I usually do this is I just double click that open area right next to the layer, and it'll take you to this menu. Now you can see here, there's a list of effects that you can apply to your layer. And in this case, I did color overlay. That's not necessarily important, but I did end up changing the color to a brighter blue. You can see here, that's all I did. Opacity, all those things are the same. Don't worry, you might be a little bit afraid about all the numbers you're about to witness, but fear not, because I will guide you through it, okay? Then we go to an outer glow. Now take a look, this is the main one. This is the absolute main one. Now the most important things that you choose here are your blend mode, which is going to be hard light, because if it's normal, it's gonna look kind of fuzzy. You see how it looks like just fuzzy and it doesn't look exactly like a glow? But as soon as you turn it to hard light, it starts taking more of the properties of the colors around it and mixing them better, right? That's the best way I can explain what's happening there. But then you have things like spread, and then you also have size, which will increase the size of your glow. And these things you'll want to just play around with until it gets to about the point where it looks like what you're going for, okay? And then I did also a drop shadow. This is more a bit of a meta thing because it's not actually a shadow that I'm creating. What I'm actually creating is additional softness. In fact, let's zoom in so you can really take a look at this. So here it is at 200%. Watch what happens when I take off the drop shadow. Do you see how that white line, it just looks like a white line, but once I put this on, it softens the white line a little bit. And what I'm doing there is I've said, okay, let's create a drop shadow, which is normally used to, it's normally set on like multiply or something, and it's like set down here, and then you can kind of set the distance. Now look at this, see, that's your drop shadow. But you can use that to say, okay, instead of a drop shadow, let's have it just be in the same exact position, so aka distance 0. Let's set the blend mode to normal, which is okay because we want it to look fuzzy. Let's pick that same exact color and see how now that softens our lines. Think of it as it's almost like a blur effect. You could also just go in there and blur your line layer, but I did this because it's a little bit easier to control. You can dial it in to look exactly the way that you want it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly what I did for that one. I took that layer style and I just duplicated it over to the rocket launcher, and then I just changed the colors. Now we have a yellow line with a little bit more of, in fact, let me just show you. Now we just have a yellow line, and the outer glow is now, look, see, same thing, hard light, and the color is this orange. Look, you can change the size and the spread and all that good stuff on the fly. And I highly recommend for those of you who will download this PSD later that you guys check that out. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, and with that, I think we're going to go ahead and end today's show. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you guys so much for joining me on another episode It's been great having you guys. I hope you had a great Merry Christmas as well as Happy Hanukkah and Kwanzaa or any other, or if you don't celebrate any of those holidays, I hope you just had an awesome December. I'm looking forward to the new year. I'm really happy to be back, guys. And, last thing I will say is that, I said it earlier, but yeah, I highly recommend you guys go onto Patreon. Thank you so much to everyone who has been supporting. But yes, on Patreon, you can download not only this, but every other PSD that has ever been featured in the footnotes of the show. I was trying to say like featured and foot at the same time. Feet and foot. That must be why I said that. Yes, every PSD that's ever been featured on the show, you guys can get it up there. So, and I hope that you guys got some good value out of this. And I hope this makes colors a little bit less scary for you guys. And understand that even me as a professional, I am not, like, half the time, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Half the time, I'm just experimenting and trying to find things that work. And using the computer to my advantage as much as possible. Always, always do that. Don't think that you have to do it all by yourself. We're all using the tools at our disposal. And the best artist, the best professional artist knows how to make use of all of them. And I'm still learning a bunch as I go. So I hope that helps you guys out. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So with all that out of the way, we're going to go and end today's show. I already said the outro. Getting back into this is a tough thing. But hey, we're back. I'm happy. Let's go ahead and close out with some Lovely Lane. You guys are awesome. I will see you guys next time. Until then, you guys stay cool. Oh, I still have the oh, whoops. Scrolling the wrong way. I still have my camera put up here. Well, in this case, I guess I'll just check out this awesome art with you guys. Oh, dang. We're going to have to scroll a lot faster than that. You guys submit so many awesome pieces. This is great. I love that manly, like almost kind of like chubby bear dude. Like, whoever's drawing that, I really like it a lot. It's really cool. Great stuff, guys. Oh, I see some Maokai. Got some witch girls. I just love seeing you guys' art. It just always makes me so happy. Oh, look, there he is with his family. There he is with his family. That's great. Oh, I realized I did show some of these in the last episode. Oh, whatever. They're so good they deserve to be shown again. It's probably better this way anyway. Maybe we'll just close out like this from now on. Actually, I like this a lot. That at least gets it. Oh, I like that perspective. Great work on that perspective. I know how hard that is. That's crazy. Dude, that Mario Samurai? Jeez. What the heck? So cool. These are so fun. You know, nothing makes me more happy than seeing you guys submit stuff to this. That I can tell that you got either inspiration or something that we did earlier in an episode really helped you out. Sexy figure, by the way. Great work on that. Oh, I love that Mika. Awesome, Mika. Yeah, it makes me really happy to see that you guys are putting the tutorials into good use. Like, that makes my day. Sexy elf. I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't do a Wayna this year. I'm still thinking of a way that we could, like, fit her in. Maybe it could be like New Year's Wayna. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm so happy. I'm so happy this year is like... I'm happy the year's over and I'm excited to get started on the next one. This like month is always a moment of like thinking about stuff. It's always a moment of like thinking about... Always a moment of thinking about what you're going to do different in the new year. As well as reflecting. There's a lot of reflection that happens. And I know that I already said goodbye, but... Those of you who stuck around, I know that you guys might appreciate this. But anyway, yeah, you guys are awesome. Please, this is to a new year. You guys keep submitting your awesome art. I'm so happy to be continuing to feature it on the Instagram. You guys keep it up. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.